Alito, y'all, Chimachukma. This is Chief Steve coming at y'all with another one. And I wanted to drop this because I tried to drop this last year. Had some technical difficulties, but I'm bringing it back. And for those who are new to the channel, make sure you like, subscribe, and yeah. Happy New Year to everybody. It's 2024. I told you guys I'd be dropping this again. So this is the first video of the year. What I wanted to bring to y'all attention when I dropped this video initially was that the people of so-called Africa do not even refer to themselves as Africans. They refer to themselves as the Indigenous People, and they refer to themselves by their tribes. The continent of Africa is made up of different countries, and within those countries you have different regions, and within those different regions you have different tribes. So these people recognize themselves by their tribes, by their homeland, okay? So the whole collective African thing is a misnomer in itself. And Pan-Africanism as a whole is a complete scam. It's not even a real thing. And I mean, we've been over this before, but I figured it would be valuable to actually hear from an indigenous person of that landmass how they feel about who they are and what's being done out there. Now, this took place some years ago, about 6 or 7 years ago, called the Rumble in the Jungle, Rumble in the Urban Jungle. It's a political event between these two politicians, and they were basically discussing land ownership and land rights within the region that they're running their campaign in. And one of the indigenous people decided to speak up and tell them both that they have no right to speak on any kind of land ownership or land rights when you got indigenous people sitting right there in their land, right there, and, you know, living. They're the only ones that have the right to that land, and that it was them, the foreign invaders and the invaders that were on the continent. Because like I said, you got different countries, you got different regions, you got different tribes. She said that her people were there first, and that over 300 years ago, these people came. The so-called white invader and the so-called black invader, which was in the continent, but came to their region, took over their land, took over their resources, and have basically left the indigenous people in that particular region high and dry. But like I said, I wanted somebody that's indigenous to that landmass to speak on this themselves. They do not refer to themselves as an African. They do not refer to themselves as a black person. They refer to themselves by their tribe. So here's an example of that right here.
It means, in my ancestral language, our struggle continues. Mr. Malema, you have no authority to talk about land ownership. The Khoisan is the only authentic voice that can talk about land. We were the first freedom fighters fighting the colonials when they came here 360 years ago. We were the first people of this nation. We were the first people of Southern Africa. And today we still face oppression. This country's history did not start in 1910 when the ANC was established, nor did it start Nor did it start in 1994 when you went to a democratic dispensation. We lived here, and you, your ancestors, and the white ancestors found us here. So we can only talk about land ownership as you found us here. The indigenous people of South Africa and Southern Africa needs to be restored. That was taken from them by the invaders. I thank you.
So that's an indigenous woman. She said that her tribe is the Khoisan people out in South Africa, what is known today as South Africa. They were here in this landmass, talking about South Africa. They were on that landmass before the invaders came. And she noticed how she said it was your ancestors and the white ancestors. So that's showing that invaders, foreigners, were coming in on both sides of the spectrum. Not all skin folk is kinfolk. That saying goes out there too. Different tribes have different vibes. Now, where his people come from, I don't know. But he's going to go ahead and rebuttal this. And here, I'll just let you hear what he has to say about it. This is the darker copper-colored politician that's about to have some pushback on what she just said. But as you see, before I even do that, as you see, she did not refer to herself as an African. She did not refer to herself as a black person. She referred to herself as an indigenous person, a Khoisan. All right? But let's see what this politician has to say about that.
I'm not sure there was a question there. Is there was a statement? Would you like to answer?
Well, I think that you are extremely missing a point. Me and you are Africans. And this land you are referring to and the whole of Africa was one thing until the colonialists came to divide us. So you must never see yourself as being something different from what I am. Otherwise, you are inviting self-isolation. We, the black African majority and the Khoisan, were one thing. And we are the only ones who can speak with authority about the Africa, the continent of African majority. So don't take away, I'm not from Europe. My ancestors are not from Europe. This Africa belongs to Africans, and that's what the Khoisan are. Don't isolate yourself, my sister. This solidarity will help us to defeat colonialist and apartheid legacy.
So as you see here, he tries to bring on the illusion of inclusion. Go ahead and lie and say that this was all one place before colonialization. This was all that the African continent was all one place before colonialization. First off, the continent of Africa wasn't even known as Africa until colonialization. Secondly, to say that it was all just one place and that everybody was just one people and one majority, black Africans, is to discredit and disrespect all of the indigenous people and their ancestors and everything that they fought for in those respective regions. But you see, he's not even thinking about that. His whole thing is, you are African. He's saying that he and her, we are Africans. We are the black African majority. He's trying to make it into a colorism thing. But like I said before, like I stated, she never referred to herself as a black person. She never referred to herself as an African. She referred to herself as a Khoisan, as somebody, an indigenous person belonging to an indigenous tribe. Yet and still, he goes to laugh and discredit her and says that she's inciting self-isolation, as if she's the only person that thinks this way. When, like I said, you have a whole, or rather like she said, you have a whole indigenous people that has been displaced and apparently reclassified as something that they're not, into a misnomer that has brought on, like I said, an illusion of inclusion that has allowed these invaders to come in and insert their political agendas from over 300 years ago, which was to take the land and the resources and use them for their own economical gain and advantages. The same thing that's being done out there is the same thing that's being done out here, just by different people, different faces, and in some cases, the same people. Depends on how you look at it. But the whole ideology of, oh, don't isolate yourself. Don't say that you're something that, excludes who we are and denounces what we're doing in our agenda. We need you to stay on code, stay on our code, and be black, be African American, because that's what fits the agenda now. But like I said, to call yourself an African American is to call yourself something that does not exist, because obviously there is no such thing as the African people. You can go to the so-called African continent, go to any country in so-called Africa, and look up the first African people. Who are the African people? You're not going to find any tribe, any race of people known as the Africans. Now you have the Afrikaans, Afrikaners. That's a whole nother story, conversation for a different time. Yet, when you're speaking about the copper-colored Aborigines on that landmass, they all have different tribes. They all have different vibes. They all have different names, and they all go by their own ways of life. That's everywhere on the landmass. Just like how you have different tribes that have different vibes out here on this landmass in the Americas. The Chata don't move like the Cherokee, like the Anyanwea. The Caddo don't move like the Shawnee. You feel me? You may have different linguistics or the same linguistic stocks that have similarities, but each tribe has a different vibe and a different way of doing things. And I've showed you that. And although a lot of our ways are different, their similarity is also very prevalent as well. Yet, we all recognize each other for our differences. We all respect each other for our differences. And that's what folks that are not from here need to realize. And even folks that are from here that claim that they are something that they're not, which is African American or from, whatever they want to claim themselves to be outside of indigenous, when clearly they see, if they've done the paperwork and the research, they can see that they've been here and they've always been here. You have some that refuse to do the research and just cling on to an ideology, a theory, if you will, the out of Africa theory. Those are the same kind of people that are in line with these kind of politicians that say, we are a black African majority. Don't self-isolate. Don't don't make it seem like we are all different, because we're not. We are different. It's okay to be different from one another. It's a beautiful thing, and we must respect each other's differences. My people are not African. Her people are not African. What is an African? That is a question that should be answered. But anyway, I just wanted to bring this to y'all attention. Like I said, I was going to drop this last year, but I had some technical difficulties with the sound. But we got that fixed up. I got a new mic and everything. I didn't hook that up, but I just wanted to get this out there. You know, it ain't always going to be perfect, but I'll make sure I give y'all at least a good enough quality to where the message can be heard. All right, so let me know how you guys feel about this in the comments. Make sure you like this video. If you're new, subscribe to the channel. There's definitely more to come in 2024. We're just getting started. This is Chief Steve signing off. Tata Kista. I appreciate and cherish you all. And Yakuki. Thank you.